Welcome to the Mind, Body, and Soul Show, everybody, on this beautiful Thursday afternoon here in Denver, Colorado. We just about hitting 98 degrees, which is a little hot. And let me introduce myself. My name is Coach Steve Toth, and I'm the host of the show as well as the founder of Conscious Evolution Media. And our guest is Dr. Eric Pearl. He is an author, a public speaker, a chiropractor, and I'm sure many other things that we're going to learn about on the show. And he's joining us from the beautiful city of Barcelona in Spain. Welcome to the show, Dr. Pearl.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's great. It's great to have you. So Doc, if I took away all those titles that I just mentioned and any other title that anybody has ever called you by, what's left? Who is really Dr.?
You know, that's such a good question, and I think about it, and I think about it, and I think about it, especially when I'm asked. Really,
You're not
I don't
supposed
think
to
I'm any different than anyone else. I practiced as a chiropractor for 12 years. A few strange things happened to me. I was awakened in the middle of the night by a bright light. I felt as if I were being watched. I got up with a knife, a can of pepper spray, and my Doberman Pinscher. I went hunting through the house. I couldn't find anyone. I went back to sleep. And that morning I went in to see my patients, and then 7 of my patients started insisting that they were feeling as if they were being watched while they were relaxing on the tables after I adjusted them, that they felt hands resting on them. They could feel my hands on them. I was in awe. I still am in awe. Mm-hmm. So I don't think about who I am. And I don't know if I know how to. Maybe that's a cop-out.
I don't know. But whatever answer it is that you gave is the perfect answer. So I know a little bit about chiropractic and network chiropractors. How it is that what you do different from network chiropractic? Because
this has absolutely nothing to do with network chiropractic.
Nothing to do with it. Okay, I just want to make sure that the viewers understand that, because I have participated in some sessions. I used to live in Boulder, Colorado, which I'm sure you heard about, right?
Did you hear the buzz?
In Boulder, Colorado, everything and just about anything goes. So
well, here comes something that goes, because I just got the knocking, the banging on the door. Let me open them so they can move in and out.
Open.
You entertain. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. I'm not calling anybody.
Okay, so Doc was telling me earlier that he ordered some food, and it hasn't come, but it's delayed, and it's gonna come. So it is here, and the wonder of our Conscious Evolution show is that whatever happens, and we don't resist it, and it's okay that what is happening, because guess what? That's what's so, and there's no sense resisting it or be different, because it isn't going to be, and it's really the source of, I believe, the pain of humanity. I'm talking about the source of the pain of humanity, which is not being okay with what's so, and people are resisting what's so, and they want it to be different.
You mean like I wanted room service to come 20 minutes ago when I expected them?
Yes. Yes. and I said it's perfectly, I told the viewers that it's perfectly okay that it's showing up right now, because it's showing up right now.
And that's what we have to learn to accept, what shows up right now.
Right, exactly.
And does it change us? Does it make us different people? I think everything makes us a different person, even when we open a letter, if anyone still gets mail, you know, we become a different person from the communication.
Oh, absolutely. And it's what I call living in the present moment, and it's very easy to talk about it. There are, you know, thousands and hundreds of thousands of people have been talking about living in the present moment, but there's a distinction between talking about it and actually our ability to live in the present moment. And that's what, you know, I practice with my guests like yourself, to actually show it to the public what it looks like, what it feels like to live in the present moment. So I don't have any conversation going on in my head right now. what should be happening or what do I have to do after the show, my mind is pretty much blank right now. What about yours, Doc?
My mind went thinking about when you discussed all the people who were speaking about, teaching about being in the present moment. And what I wondered is, where are they when they plan their next presentation on being in the present moment? Obviously, they're not in the present moment because they're planning it.
Yes, yes, and that's really what I love about our show and our network is because you know if you look at commercial television, Doc, everything on commercial television, there are hardly any more live shows on commercial television. Everything is scripted, and if you think about what scripting is really going to the past. It's not being in the present.
No, absolutely. And when I think back about your question of who am I now, it's really sort of interesting because what I started to mention to you was that I would adjust my patients as a chiropractor, just regular adjustments, nothing to do with network or anything else, just regular adjustments. And then I'd tell them to close their eyes, relax, and settle in, let the adjustment settle itself in. And when they opened their eyes, they were telling me they could feel my hands still on them. They could feel other hands resting on them. And as I would hold my hands near them, even when their eyes were closed, I would see their bodies start to go into involuntary movements. Fingers would move, arms and legs would jerk, eyes would dart back and forth. When they'd open their eyes, they reported seeing colors they'd never seen before, smelling fragrances of flowers they had never smelled before. And I was playing with seeing how I can discover what this is, how I can accentuate it, how I can play with it, make it more, make it less, make it change, bring it back. And in order to do that, the one thing I truly had to do was stop, was to feel, which really feeling is listening with a different sense. Feel the sensations, follow them, observe how they would bring about changes and responses physically in my patients. So I was really learning to observe without judgment, to be the witness and the witnessed, the seer and the seen simultaneously, which to me, I don't think you can get much more present moment, present time aware than that.
Yeah. So this is what's happening in my body right now as you're describing this. Okay. So I'm getting goosebumps. I probably can't show it off on the camera. Because it's
not high enough resolution.
It's not that good of a camera, but I have goosebumps. And as you started to speak about this, I was feeling this energy in my spine, and I felt, and I'm still feeling this resonance. And every time I have this experience, so this is like for me, it's like a tuning fork, and I think that's what you're describing is that we're tuning into our own energy, connecting to ourselves and connecting to each other. Do you feel the same way?
Partly, but there's more.
Okay.
That's what we had been doing with the energy healing that had been here, with Reiki, Jirei, Jinshin, Qigong, Alpha, Beta, Delta, Gamma, Mahjong, Beijing, all the different energy healing techniques. What we had to learn to do, step one, was to stop focusing in on a technique. Because we'd been existing in this little four-dimensional bubble of height, width, depth, and time. And inside everything has been energy. So when we use our energy healing techniques, we focus in on different little subsets of the energy. So step one is to let go of and transcend technique to access the entirety of the bubble. But step two is to understand that once we do that, we step into time, which is expanding, a bubble which is expanding to encompass more of the universe than we've had here before, levels and aspects of light and information that many researchers feel have not been with us prior to now. And when we entrain with that light, that more coherent vibratory level of light, our light rises to match it, which comes back to your analogy of the tuning fork. Because if you strike a tuning fork here and a tuning fork there, and you hold them by each other, the lower vibrating tuning fork rises to meet the higher vibration. And what's happening with our health is that we are moving beyond just energy and energy healing into a more expansive, comprehensive spectrum of energy, light, and information. As the new, higher vibratory, more coherent levels of light come in, the light emitting from our DNA entrains with that, rises to a new level. And anything denser or heavier than that light has very little left to hold on to. So as appropriate for each person on their life course, those health challenges, those densities fall away. And if we understand nothing else, and we want to take home just one key from this whole interview, it's in these next two statements. A, healing, true healing, is just that simple. And B, anything more complicated than that, crystals, pendulums, pendants, wands, techniques, protections, rituals, anything more complicated than that is designed to sell us something. But it's not just designed to sell us on the silly little pyramid hat. What it's designed to sell us is on the fear that we are less than abundantly enough. And in order for us to step into our own healing, we have to step out of the fear of thinking that we need something external or something new to add to us, and to take our vision around and turn it back within, to come back home, and to step out of the fear into the love, the knowingness, the light that we are abundantly enough.
Yes, that's very beautifully said, by the way. So I'd like to open up a dialogue about, because my experience of doing this network, the Conscious Evolution Media Network, and it doesn't need to be explained really what it is, but what my experience tells me is that most people will be stopped by their egos, and that what people are challenged by is that they already know. They think that they already know. And what I like to suggest to all of our viewers, including to myself, that everything that I know is just in the way of what I don't know.
If we can allow ourselves to learn to say with total ease, I don't know, those key words open up virtually every doorway. Because when we feel that we know the answer, we stop learning. We say everything within this box is the answer, everything outside of the box is wrong. But when we're willing to say, I don't know, our mind then moves on to, what if this? What if that? I don't know, but what about this possibility? What about that potential? And we start blending this potential with this and this with that, and we come up with what at first appear to be better answers. But actually, if we allow ourselves to observe this, they are not answers at all. They are the building blocks that we can utilize to ask better questions, because our growth comes from asking the questions. Philosophy is about the questions. When you speak to people who've had life after death experiences, the answers are all made known to us at that point in time. But this experience in physical form as life is not about the answers. It's about the growth we experience in the seeking of the answers.
Fantastic. Okay, so also what I wanted to explore with you is how do we assist people? Because everything that I think you talked about so far and what you actually do, and I love the way you said it, that it's very simple. I have begun now for some time shy away from anything that's complicated, because humanity with our wonderful minds have made life so chaotic and so complicated that that it's unbelievable. So what what I am turned on by, and what I get really excited about is everything that is simple. It has to be simple.
It is simple. It doesn't. It's not that it has to be simple, that we have to force it to simple or deny the complex. I think when we allow ourselves to truly observe, the elegant simplicity makes itself clear. I believe it's the ego that wants to complicate it.
Yes, I believe that too. So this is where I'd like to bring in the conversation about the heart. And again, lots of people talk about, connect to your heart, but I get a lot of people asking me, but that's easier said than done. And what do you mean by connecting to my heart? What does that mean? And how do I do it? And I'd like to hear your answer first, and then I'll share mine.
You mean besides the initial answer, which is I'm not sure that I know, but
but I have an opinion about it.
what I do is I look for the beauty in everyone. I don't always stop long enough to pause to do that, as much as I'd like to. I'm on my own learning curve with it. But when I can stop and say, what do I find beautiful about this person? Then suddenly I find that my heart is wide open in a way that it didn't appear to be prior to that. Again, I believe that when we observe without judging what we see, we're coming from the heart. Does that resonate in any way?
Well, yes, absolutely. And there's no right or wrong answer to this. So I do it a little bit differently. And how I do it, Doc, is that I connect to my own beauty first. Because if I can't do that, what the world will and the universe will mirror back to me is where I'm at. So it has become really important to me to connect to my own beauty, my own love, and my own magnificence first. And to some people, this may sound, okay, so he's egotistic, but not really. Because what I'm talking about, I'm not talking about connecting to the ego and connecting to the mind. I'm talking about connecting to a higher self. And that's probably requires some explanation as well. What do we mean by our higher self, right?
Well, not only does that not sound egotistical to me, but it really sounds like you just open yet another door of perspective. For me, something that I'm going to try, because when you said it, I could feel it. It's hard to, for me, I think it's easier. It's almost been a deflective to look for the beauty in someone else first. I hadn't thought about this yet, but when you said it and I started looking at where the beauty is in me, then it's hard not to recognize the beauty in someone else simultaneously. So I think that insight is an amazing gift.
Yeah, thank you, Doc. And I feel that in terms of the journey that we are all on is really about, and definitely this includes me, is the journey is about rediscovering our own magnificence and our own love, because every time I experience a baby to be born, I'm reconnected to it all over again, and I remember how beautiful and how innocent and how absolutely just beyond words that I can explain. I have 5 grandkids, and I'm lucky enough to witness all of their birth, and including my own 3 kids. And every time I'm in the presence of that magical moment of birth, I am reminded, not only reminded, but I am reconfirming that That beauty and that magnificence lives in every one of us all the time. We just forgot.
We did just forget. And we do remember in between lifetimes. And then I believe that part of our challenge is to bring as much of that memory back here to characterize our life in physical form as possible. But it's not that we're supposed to be gifted with it. It's that we're supposed to learn from the discovery or the rediscovery, the recognition, the reconnection with that consciousness, which is what you're doing.
Well, it's kind of an interesting, I mean, for me, being awake and being conscious right now is like, I'm learning to be almost like I'm learning to be a kid again. And if you look at me, if you look at my physical presence, I'm 60 years old. But a lot of people tell me I don't look 60 years old. And when I look in the mirror or I look in the camera and I look at myself and I go, wow, I know a lot of people around me that are the same age as me, and oh boy, they don't look like this. And I'm not sharing this to say, oh, well, Steve, you've done well. That's not what it's about. What it's about for me is that I believe that if you're tuned into this energy of consciousness and living in the present moment, time does stop. And not only does it stop, but it makes us younger. It makes us healthier. There is a lot of things that I'm experiencing with this, especially health. Health is a huge thing, a huge challenge for most people right now on this planet. Have you noticed?
Yeah, I've noticed a little bit. I noticed that a lot of the people who are our Reconnective Healing teaching assistants, usually within the first few months of working with us, come back independently, not knowing that almost all the others have come back saying the same thing. And they tell us that their families asked them if they had had something done because they looked 15 to 20 years younger.
Yeah.
Now, after a while, I started discussing this with some of the researchers who were studying reconnective healing. And this is a lot of science on reconnective healing around the world because the healings are very different than energy healing. First of all, they tend to be fairly instantaneous. They have a tendency to be life-lasting, so you don't have to go back again and again. The researchers are wondering what can take place in a few seconds that brings that about. And they tend to relate that back to what we talked about earlier, the entrainment with a higher light vibration. They say, because we know today that light is not just a metaphysical concept. We know from the work of Dr. Fritz Popp in Germany, for example, and others, that the DNA in each of our cells emits specific levels of light, that it's generally recognized that when this measurable light is diminishing, our health is diminishing. When the light is coming back up, our health is coming back up. But as the light changes that we emit from our DNA, that we emit from our cells, then it brings about a change in our collagen, in our cellular reproduction. It's like we're so busy covering up with, makeup and cosmetics and things, but we seem to be changing on the inside with the reconnection. So everything that we put on externally has far greater effects to it. I'm not saying run out and get your reconnective healing because it's going to make you look 20 years younger. But let's face it, it's a side effect that, well, not so bad.
Yeah, I would say so. And I don't. I mean, I made a. This sounds crazy. I know it does sound crazy, but I did make a claim. As I recall, probably a year or two ago, on the network, that I am pursuing a kind of life right now that I intend to live for 400 years, and I know it's possible. and I know it in my heart, and I can make it happen, I believe, without my body getting old.
But do you want to? I mean, do you really want to live for 400 years in this one appearance or illusion of who you are? In other words, maybe, just maybe, there is a grand design to the body supposedly being able to be designed to function for 120 years, for example, for us to recycle back lifetime after lifetime, to learn and experience life through being male in one life, female in another life, to having a kind of face and personality that's always bubbly and smiling, to having the type of face that people are always coming up and saying, what's wrong, why don't you smile? To being universally attractive, to being not so universally attractive, to be born into a society where everyone is the same color, or to find that you're raised in a society where you're in the minority. There are so many different flavors of life to experience, and we attract so many other people's interactions with us, and I'm not sure that I want this one experience for the next 400 years. But you may.
Mm-hmm. Well, the way I feel about it is what I'm driving at, Doc, is that people need proof. People constantly need proof. Like, for example, I mean, we both know, everybody knows that for a long time people believed that the Earth was flat, right? And then somebody came along and said, well, no, the Earth is not flat; it's round. And they thought. And I thought that person was crazy, and they actually persecuted him. And this kind of example exists in history over and over and over again, and that has to do with what we believe. Like, somebody comes along and says something, and all of a sudden, thousands and millions of people start believing that, and all of a sudden, that becomes our reality. That may or may not have anything to do with real reality. It just happens to be maybe it's a temporary reality. And all I'm saying is that I have so much more to live for and so much more to give. And I don't think I can do it in 120 years. That's all.
No, maybe not. Maybe not. But do you think you will ever reach the end of what you have to give? And might you be able to give more by giving it in different forms and formats? Might you be able to give more by giving it in new identities and watching each one take shape and form? Do people need truth, or is it that we enjoy proof? Do people need proof, or is it that we simply desire proof? Maybe part of what we're here to learn is how to recognize without having to have the proof. We are so focused on a scientific approach to things that we confuse absence of proof with proof of absence. Maybe we're here to learn that absence of proof is not proof of absence, and to learn that we must experience absence of proof. I mean, we have to recognize, for example, so many people say, well, something can't exist because science hasn't proven it, which is really us forgetting that everything must exist before science proves it, or science would have nothing to discover or prove in the very first place.
Yes, that's very true. And we also must remember that many times scientists are quite off. And then they come around, every 10, 20, 30, 50 years and say, we were wrong.
Well, using your example, we spoke about a time where everyone thought that the Earth was flat. And at the time, it looked like religion and spirituality were walking in opposite directions from one another, where they locked poor Galileo away, for having the audacity to say that the Earth revolved around the sun. And so as science and religion seem to walk in opposite directions, and the belief being that the world was flat, then they seem to walk away. But when we recognize that the earth is round, as they continue walking away from each other, following the circumference, we find that they're coming back to join one another with support. As science went from separate and distinct to relativity, to quantum, to truth, to consciousness, how we started to rediscover spirituality in our religions again. They come back with gifts of support for one another. They've never walked away. They journeyed to explore and discover, if only to return. And we are here so honored to be able to live in this time where we're starting to recognize the truths that have been obscured both intentionally as well as unintentionally over time.
Yeah, and so what you've just done for me, Doc, is I think similar to something that I shared before, which had to do with loving myself and connected to myself first. Very similar experience, I believe. So I'm not attached to living for 400 years. I'm okay with whatever is supposed to happen.
And I'm not attached to departing in 120.
There you go. So let me rephrase that. So I'm open for whatever is being uncovered, discovered, whatever I'm supposed to do, I will just continue to do.
Here are some of the interesting concepts. If we speak again, and sometimes I go back to this as reference because I don't think that we pay enough attention to the insights brought back to us by people who have had life after death experiences. But one of the first things that they often come back with is the understanding that there are old souls and new souls recycling through lifetime after lifetime to gain our lessons. So I just sort of wonder, as you do, what is the optimal length of a learning, of a lesson of a lifetime? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. But whatever it is for me, we'll just have to be fine. So, if I drop dead tomorrow, I'm complete. I'm complete with my life, actually, right now, in this moment. If a 747 decides to end on my studio right now, I would be fine. I wouldn't have to complete anything with anybody because I'm pretty complete with everybody that I'm around with. So,
and I'm not afraid of death either. Howsoever, there are certain ways of dying that might not be my first choice. If I go, please let me go quickly. If it's a 747 on my head, fine. If it's a car accident, better if it happens in my sleep. Just don't let it be slow and painful. It reminds me of the old joke, what's worse than jumping off of a 40-story building and killing yourself? Jumping off and not killing yourself.
Yes. All right, so I'm fascinated by also the organization that you have created. So let's talk about that. How does someone like you, it seems to me that you found something that was your life calling. Is that correct?
Something found me that was my life calling. I had to recognize it.
Yes, I stand corrected. And then you pursued that, and look at where it's taking you. It's taking you to all over the world. You're going to be doing a presentation is it tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow, and right here in Barcelona.
Yeah. In front of how many people?
I don't know. I usually find out when I walk in. I know when I did Paris a couple of weeks ago, we had, I'd say, about 750 people.
Okay, so let's say between 700,000, sometimes more. So, and you doing a lot of travel all over the world, because that's what you are being called to do, I believe. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I'm on the road approximately 40 weeks a year to 45 weeks a year teaching this work. As a matter of fact, we'll be in Denver September 13th through 15th. Yeah,
Great.
that's right. Denver, September 13th through 15th. We'll be in Newport Beach, November 1st through 3rd. Toronto, the 8th through the 10th. And we gave our first, for the new book, which is called Solomon Speaks, we gave our first live presentation, and it's having its first live stream replay, which on July 13th, which I think you can, or July 13, 14, and 15, which if you go to thereconnection.com, I think all the information is on that website.
Okay, great. Well, I just want to give you, an official invitation to our cable TV studio here in Denver. So you're welcome to come in. I do a show called on cable television called the Living Consciously cable TV show. So you're welcome to come in and even bring. I mean, I have room for up to maybe 40 people in the studio. So that would be a very, very exciting broadcast, live broadcast. It is a live broadcast for people here in Denver. Because I watched what you do on Dr. Oz, and I'm definitely fascinated by how you use this incredible talent that you're gifted with. And I know you say that everybody can develop this. However, I think it takes something.
Here's what it takes. Here's what it takes, and you actually hit on it earlier on. First of all, it takes the willingness to not think that we already know it. To extrapolate on that, it takes the willingness to not think that we're just entitled to it by existing. But every gift that we receive isn't necessarily just a gift. It's a reward, in a sense, for exchange, not an exchange, but for attaining a new level of who and what we are. In order to access the level that reconnective healings can access, we have to overcome the feeling that we already know this and the feeling that we're self-entitled to it, the spiritual self-entitlement that says I can sit in a corner on a mat and ohm it in. Well, you can ohm all day and it's not coming. It's like going to the top floor of a beach hotel and ohming in the ocean. Ohm all you want. A, the ocean isn't coming. B, if it does, you better get your spiritual little butt out of the way because it's a tsunami. The only way that you're going to get wet with ocean water, and it's just as equally you can become wet with ocean water as anyone else, but only for those people who go down to the ocean. No other way. And it's the same with this. You have to come and interact with other people who A, have learned to access this, and B, have learned to teach you how to access it. Short of that, the part of us that feels spiritually entitled to it because it's already here on earth is precisely the part of us that blocks it from coming through to us. Just as you were talking about, the part of us that insists that we know is exactly the part of us that blocks with us discovering, because we can't discover what we already know. What happens is when I teach these seminars, and I want you to know that for the first couple of years of people pushing me, I didn't think I could teach this. And I didn't think that anyone could learn it. But what I discovered was by taking people through my process, I could get them to this space. And the way I do it is really simple. For instance, in Denver on that Friday night, I'll give a 3-hour presentation. We'll talk about the history of the work, the philosophy, the theory, the science. We will bring people up from the audience and give live demonstrations of the healing. So you get to witness the reality of this, because sometimes in our seeing lies our knowingness, and in our knowingness lies our ability to see even more, and in seeing even more lies greater enhanced knowingness. So I give demonstrations, and we'll give everyone an opportunity for you to feel this in your hands, because it's very palpable and easy to feel. But that Saturday and Sunday in Denver is very, 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 very different. because it's a workshop. It doesn't, it's, you know, don't think we're all going to sit around, hold hands, burn incense, and sing Kumbaya, my Lord. It won't happen. I demonstrate a level of the work from the stage, and then we'll all go stand at the massage tables. So let's say, Steve, that you come to the seminar, you might stand at the massage table, someone else will lie on your massage table. The teaching team and I will walk around throughout the room. We will take your hands. We will show you how to feel this, how to find it, how to access this healing spectrum, and you will witness right in front of your very eyes the person on your table, their body going to involuntary movements, hands moving, feet moving, fingers, eyes darting back and forth, breathing, significantly changing. Then we'll show you how to access a different portion of it, feel it differently, and you will start to witness their responses change, and you will start to recognize your clear, distinct role in leading them into a healing space. In other words, you are opening a door. They are choosing to walk through the door. They are choosing the gift they return with. And by the end of one weekend, that one weekend, not 6 years or 3 months, but one weekend, I can pretty much make you two promises. A, you will be able to do anything and everything in the way of healing that I can do. And B, you will be able to do anything and everything in the way of healing that any human being on this planet can do by that Sunday, September 15th.
Wow, that sounds great. That sounds fantastic. So let's talk a little about the team. How did you hand select everybody on your team? How does that work? How did that become to be what it is?
In the beginning, I selected on good intention alone. I would say to people who came to the seminar a second or third time, you've already been through this once, now I need you to help me because we're getting more and more people here. Then I found out that everyone wanted to add and change things according to what suited them, according to the preconceptions with which they attended the seminars. So then I had to start to screen people out according to who was able to let go of their pre-existing beliefs and come in, recognize, observe what was going on, and help people discover this. It's one thing to learn how to do it, it's another thing to know how to teach it. So right now, I will tell you that our teaching assistants are very highly trained. They've not only gone through a basic and an advanced level seminar in learning to do the work, they've also invested their time and money in learning how to teach the work. So when you come to a Reconnective Healing seminar, you get pretty much the same message, the same quality of teaching, the same information, no matter which teaching assistant you receive. They're all around the world. So, for example, many of our we usually have one teaching assistant trained for every 18 to 20 people attending the seminar. So even if there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, you still have one assistant for every 18 to 20 people in that size group where you are. Here, for example, in Barcelona, a large number of our teaching assistants are native Spanish language speakers, and in virtually every country we go to where English is not the native language, we have simultaneous translation available in headsets, so you can hear it in your own native language, you can take it off, you can listen to me, you can put it on, you can listen to your languaging. Teaching truly is an evolved art and skill, one that I'm learning along the way and one that our teaching assistants are learning at very high levels.
Wow. All right, so I'm curious now, since you very effectively described the organization, I'm very curious in terms of setting up this organization, what kind of a conscious corporate, maybe using the word corporate is the wrong word, what kind of conscious organizational structure do you have in place? Because I'm definitely no longer believing in corporate America. I spent more than 30 years in it, and it's a top-down philosophy, and it doesn't work for me. So
I don't know anything much about business.
Okay.
Fortunately, what I was able to do was send out mailings when the seminars first began before I bought myself a computer, and then post it on the internet, and people simply seem to just come. Now, along with some time, we decided to help streamline and get the communication out better. So I hired a woman who has, or makes connections with people in media to let people know that I'm teaching in certain places, and often those, such as yourself, who become interested invite me onto their shows, and we talk about that. Otherwise, media usually seeks us out, and they come, and that's fun as well. I have had several different people come in and be my management. Each has had a different style and a different form, none of which I've truly understood. The very, very, very present management is my favorite because they are so heart-based, still with people with a business background so they understand what makes sense and what doesn't, so we can keep the doors open, but heart-based in a way that allows people to come in and feel a part of what's going on and get support. And this is really very current management. I'd say that's taken over just in the past few months. So the flavor is becoming entirely different than it had been.
Oh, great. Thanks for sharing that, Doc. So I'm curious as to getting some feedback from you. I have never done this before, but I'm just called to do that right now. So I usually do what I'm called to do.
Please do. I do what I'm called to do too. Let's hope it's not hang up.
You and I just had this conversation. How is this different from any other interviews you ever had?
This is the look of me looking inside myself for the answer. There's more of what I would read as a genuine interest in asking real questions than in asking canned questions. I know that my publicists, when they contact people, supply you with a list of suggested questions. I said, stop calling them suggested questions, because my suggestion is they don't ask any of them. My suggestion is, because it's boring as crap to answer the same questions over and over again. My suggestion is find interviewers who have real questions. And you do. You're taking your own concepts, you're integrating your own experience into your questions, into wanting to discover, which is, to me, what makes not just interest for the viewing audience, but interest for the person being interviewed. You asked what this had to do with network chiropractic. I'm very familiar with network chiropractic. I could answer quite clearly, it has nothing to do with it, because network chiropractic is a technique. We have many wonderful techniques, of which network chiropractic is one, not more, not less, not better, not worse. The entire purpose of reconnective healing is to transcend technique entirely. The world does not need another energy healing technique. It has 32 Reikis alone. It doesn't need more. What we need, it doesn't need another technique any more than a child learning to ride a bicycle with training wheels needs a second or a third set of training wheels. The child needs to remove the training wheels, or they'll master the bicycle with training wheels, but they'll never master the bicycle itself. We need to remove our techniques, because we have not been placed here on a planet to master another energy healing technique. We have been placed here to hopefully master healing itself. So we have to recognize that riding the bicycle with 12 training wheels does not make you better than someone who rides with one. You'll never master the bicycle until they come off, and the true gift of the technique and healing comes only once we transcend the technique itself. This is not really a secret, but it's a secret because most teachers either don't know this or for some reason might not want you to know this, but they want you to learn the next level of the technique, and the next. And these are what the teachers teach us, but the true masters are the first to admit that they're not teaching us in the first place, that we are stepping into our own mastery by being in the consciousness of something more expansive. The teachers keep us coming back year after year after year, and the masters say, don't come back, I need that seat, because the masters realize that there'll always be a new student as long as there's truth to be taught.
And there came the goosebumps again. You did it again.
Yeah, I'm going to get you a sweater for our next interview.
Well, every time I am in the presence of truth, I get goosebumps and my body starts shaking inside out. That's all I know.
And it's nice to have a feedback system of that kind. It's nice to have something that taps us gently on the shoulder and says, all right, Eric, pay attention to this.
I mean, you said it. You just summed it up in the last. Matter of fact, you know, I'm going to make we make a trailer video for all of our shows, and I'm definitely going to make a trailer video of this show, and I'm going to use this last few minutes to create that piece, because what you just shared really sums it up. That we don't need another another tool, another wheel, another methodology. We've got so many of them out there that people are completely lost, and we going from one tool to another tool to another tool. I used to say, this occurred for me too in my life, is that I was always looking for another shiny object, and you can replace the shiny object by any modality or tool or whatever you want.
That's right. Or the ego that wants to say, look, I've got 36 different certificates in Reiki, Jurei, Jinshin, Qigong, Mahjong, Beijing all up on my wall. And what I want to say is, take them down. They're pieces of paper. They're pieces of paper. To the degree we wear the costume on the outside, post their certificates, wear the tie-dyed outfits and the moon and star earrings, it's opposite. It's inversely proportionate to the degree that we own the truth of the integrity of who and what we are on the inside. Let's remove what's on the exterior, and let's become, stop trying to do, but instead become the truth of who and what we are on the interior, and it will shine outward.
Oh, I couldn't have said it better. Fantastic. I really, Dr. Eric, I thoroughly enjoyed this show for me, and I always share this with people, is that I like to surround myself, I'm a tennis player, so if I play tennis, I always like to play with somebody that's better than me, because that calls me to be better. If I play tennis with somebody that's worse than me, I get bored very quickly. And being with you here for this hour, it really called me to be the best human being I can be. That's all I can say. That's my truth.
What a beautiful thing to share. Thank you very much, because you also brought me to a new place. You changed my direction to bring us back to the beginning of the show, to telling me to look at my own beauty first, because that will allow me to recognize the beauty in others. So I guess what I'm saying is there is no giving without receiving. This was a beautiful experience for me being on your program.
Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you in real life in September, and hopefully you can make it into our studio, because
love to.
So much fun. Thank you very much for being on the Mind, Body, and Social and on the Conscious Evolution Media Network. I love you all. Don't forget to come back every Thursday at 2 o'clock, always on Mountain Time, which is 1 o'clock on Pacific, and 4 o'clock on Eastern. Again, I love you all, and see you next week. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you.